circle? Do you want to do that, or just kind of?
Circle, whatever you want.
Okay, so whatever you want, Bob.
Sure. Okay.
So we can kind of make it more of a group thing and have discussion or whatever, however you want to handle it. It's fine.
Actually, I was kind of thinking that everybody would be sitting together and not facing each other.
So you
but
just, what do you mean?
sitting here and just having one person at a time sitting up, but since we're in place, why not?
Okay.
This is good.
Okay.
Okay. I just told the mayor we have a quorum, so that's good. That's good. First of all, I want to thank the mayor and all his staff to attend tonight. I know it's a big thing to come out when you work days too, and you come out at night too. I do want to recognize a couple of new members that are with us tonight. Jason Adams of Church Street and Drew Marin of Edwin. Actually,
That's
Melanie.
Drew's changed from the southwest to the
There you go.
northeast.
Drew just recently
Give me
relocated.
another 20 years and I'll be the other 2 quarters.
Drew's wife, Melanie, is very active too in town affairs, and she was at our last meeting as well. I'll let the mayor introduce the staff when it comes time for that. But to start out with, what I was just going to do was congratulate Linda, please, for me and for us, Linda Colbert, for the wonderful note she put in the newsletter this month. I thought it was great. I grew up in Arlington, but my wife grew up in Vienna, and her brother and sister went to Madison High School. And Linda did a great piece on how Madison High School and the town of Vienna has a relationship that goes back so many years, sharing experiences and things like that. It was very good reading. If anybody hasn't gone to it.
Just as a note, they're also going to put it in Mad Memos. That's the PTA newsletter for the Madison High School. So
Very
they've
good.
asked if it can continue on and pass it on to the high school as well, just to share, because I think a lot of people didn't know that relationship.
One thing I didn't know is that the student athletes for Madison do service projects, one of which is cleaning up Piney Branch in the northeast part of town. I saw the kids down there, and I didn't know that they were being brought in for special student athletes work, so that was good. In the past, we've had Madison Family of the Hearts manage the CHO family food for the needy in November. There's always a relationship between NEVCA as well with the town and Madison. How many of you went to Madison High School that are here? Well, you're not the one. We need somebody old, because I was going to ask a question. There used to be a hamburger stand. There used to be a hamburger stand right next to where the M4 is at Pleasant Street. And when I was in college, I worked at Wolf Trap Farm Park. And I met a lot of friends from Madison High School, and they just loved this place. It had a gravel parking lot and light green. You just drive up its window, and they had great French fries and great onion rings. Can't remember the name of it. I was just trying to think.
I can't.
Okay, I'll have to talk to Linda. Just a couple quick announcements. The CHO food drive kicked off November 1st and concludes December 31st. And once again, the Girl Scouts from Kilmer Middle School are helping to manage and collect the food. CHO is Committee for Helping Others is also doing a bike collection. There were 2 Saturdays in November. One has passed. It was November 14th. The next one and the last one is November 28th. So if you have used bikes that you want to contribute to the CHO bike drive, the drop-offs are at Vienna Presbyterian or Antioch Christian Church on Beulah Road between 10 and 2 p.m. That's Saturday, November 28th. For one other update, the Community Learning Garden, all these things pretty much are in the newsletter that the NEVCA notes that we just put out last week. They were mailed to 600 homes in Northeast Vienna, and it's online, I think. Is it online now, the NEVCA notes? Okay, as well at nevca.org if you don't have a hard copy. But it's on the board here too, both the November and the April newsletter. In there we talk about the Community Learning Garden, which NEVCA got a $4,000 grant from Fairfax County for. There was a very nice write-up by the manager for 2015, Mary Woods, and I think there may be something talked about that tonight, but I know that she did a great job this year, and if she was here, I'd thank her personally. As far as membership, we have 107 members. That's up considerably from 2-3 years ago when I first came on board as the president, and so we're doing well. We're doing well. We're always looking for new members, so if you have friends or people that would like to join, just tell them to look us up. It's still $10 a year. It's a pretty good deal. So one thing I wanted to get into very briefly tonight is the year in review. What we've been focusing on the past year has been a support for a traffic calming for crosswalks over Beulah Road between Church Street and Seidling Court, the last street inside of town on Beulah. It's been a long time coming. We had asked NEVCA members a year or more ago to give us their suggestions, and we heard this from several. So 104 residents along the Beulah Road corridor put a petition in, and it was heard by the Transportation Safety Commission in June. And there was very good back and forth. That's also written up in the newsletter for this month. So I urge you to read it. The next step for that is to come out in January 24th, I think it is, for the next hearing, where the traffic study will be presented, and they'll get more input from the citizens, input from the engineers, input from Wolf Trap Elementary School, I believe. They wanted to be part of the discussion. So put that on your calendar if you would. The last thing I have to say is that I do ask often to give me feedback, or the committee members, so we know what to focus on, what we can do for you. It's very important. We do meet quarterly, and this is one of the things we talk about. The more information we get from you, the better, so we can go in the right direction. Just before this meeting, for instance, one of the comments I got from a NEVCA resident on Air Hill was, "We are desperate to have a sidewalk installed on Upper Air Hill Avenue near Beulah Road." Okay, that's the kind of thing we need to hear. So we need to know what's important to you. At the same time, another resident also on Beulah said, "Thanks for pursuing the crosswalks on Air Hill and Beulah." I'm not trying to force the TSC in any direction, but that's one of the things, one of the intersections that we were keen on seeing some sort of resolution for. That's pretty much all I've got for my comments. As far as the agenda goes, the treasurer and committee reports are next. As you may have read in the newsletter, we were seeking a treasurer, and we've found one. A new member, Bob Leggett. He lives on Church Street, has volunteered to be treasurer. Bob's traveling tonight, so he couldn't be here. But in his absence, and then we will have an election for officers in the spring meeting. That's when we do the annual election officers. Very briefly, given the recent expenditures on the printing of the newsletter and ads coming in, we're very close to $1,000 for the balance for NEVCA. So for the committee reports, I wanted to give the opportunity for our committee members to put their 2 cents in if they have any topics. Mary Ellen Larkin's here, does our newsletter. She's the chairman of the newsletter committee, chairman of one. Oh, maybe her husband too, Dan. So Mary Ellen, do you have anything?
No, we're always looking for input for articles, so think of something for April when we're doing that, and be happy to put it in.
Good. We also have a web presence in addition to the newsletter that goes out, and Doug Francis is kind enough to take that on. So, Doug, do you have anything?
No, the website seems to be working well. It's a good way for people, if they just get something about NEVCA, they'll Google NEVCA and it comes right to our site. So that's really fortunate. And then we also have a Facebook page as well. So we have local people who have liked the page where we can actually send them notifications of different things. But as far as blog posts, fortunately, Mary's article that she wrote about the community farming garden,
Yes.
we added in there, and I just think if we could get some ideas, occasional ideas for local articles, that would be great. Be open to working with anybody who wants to be a writer, even taking some local pictures and putting it up there, and you can actually have your name there as the author. So any aspiring writers, I'm up for that.
Good. Thanks, Bob Myers, he's our resident expert, or Northside Yard, Northside Park. Bob and I live across from each other at Northside, so we can almost do semaphore or whatever if we want to say hi to each other. We walk down to the caboose now and then. Bob's, like I am, kind of the eyes and ears of Northside Park, Northside Yard, and we like to think that we help the town sometimes in jumping on things before it takes too long getting done. And Bob, if you have any.
Well, the only update to give, I guess, is there will be reconstruction of the W.O.&D trail adjoining Northside Park. That's been further delayed. It won't start for 3 months, I found out today, due to permitting process for Fairfax County being next to the stream. When it does close, there'll be rerouting traffic onto the Dry Oak Trail, which dips down the hill behind there on the Center Street side and comes back out right by Bob's house there, so you can stop and wait.
Start in March.
Is it
Yeah,
March?
3 months from now, I heard, was the report from today, from February.
Could be February. I didn't talk to them. I do know that they were planning it originally to have it in the summer or fall last year. They had surveyors out there last winter, and then they had surveyors out there 2 weeks ago again, and they told me they were kind of doing the same thing they were doing before.
So it is being rebuilt.
The stream over a period of years has dug into the bank there, and so if you go along going towards Reston and look down in the creek, it's almost straight down. And if you're walking along the stream, it's frightening because it's just a earth berm. It's nothing there holding it up. In addition to that, I believe it's AT&T. There is fiber optics that run along that side of the trail too. So they really need to get that done. So what they're going to do is do you've probably seen it before, cage and riprap. They call it gabions. They're pretty substantial. It's a lot of work, and it could be, I don't know, it could be 100 or 200 yards. But they build those things up, and they're pretty substantial. They hold the bank and support the bank. And if it takes weeks or months, likely months, like Bob said, bikers coming from the center of Vienna going towards Reston, right there at the leaving Vienna sign, will be directed off the bike trail onto the horse trail, the bridle trail, for about a quarter mile, and then come back up. But before they do that, the WOD staff really has to clear the bridle trail because it's been overgrown. It's only been meant for horses and foot riders. Now they got bicycles and heavy use.
We're supposed to improve that trail before they divert traffic onto it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
One other note for Northside Park is there's a beaver back if you haven't noticed out there walking.
I saw one thing, but the beavers are something in the past. They've taken a hit on the hill. I keep my eye on them too. That's part of the beauty of that park. You have all sorts of critters around.
I've seen that, but it's right near where they're going to do this construction.
Yeah, definitely will disrupt the beavers' activity.
But probably animal control needs to relocate that.
Yeah, they'll see
There's
the value.
no relocation in Virginia. There's only death.
For beavers?
For any animal, wild animal, there's no relocation in Virginia, it's state law.
Okay. So that's it for the committees. We do have the next agenda item, and for that, I want to thank the staff and Mayor and Mercury Payton, the manager, for coming out tonight. When Lori first ran for mayor, it was unopposed, and we knew that what the outcome would be. So she said, wouldn't it be nice if I could come and speak to the membership? So we had Lori at our April meeting, and I think that coincided with an issue with cutting trees on Maple Avenue. We didn't expect that type of thing, so it was an excellent time to hear back the reasons why, things like that. I first met the mayor but when there was a proposal for a new Park PC zoning classification, Park PC zoning, park conservation. And at that time, Lori was the chairman of the Planning Commission. That was a successful effort, and I think it's been a benefit to have you here for so many years. By agreement, Lori's going to introduce the staff, including the two newest members, and you want to take it away?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me and the town staff here at your meeting, and thank you to Bob for inviting us and for organizing this so we could be here tonight. Before I introduce, actually I'm going to introduce the town manager and he will introduce the directors. But before I do that, I'd like to share a few things that are going on in the community. There are 3 big projects currently going on right now in the town. And the first you're probably aware of, which is the renovation and expansion of the community center, which I'm sure you've seen the fence being put up and the site work being done. And that started this fall, and it'll continue on probably about 15 to 18 months. We're expecting completion to be done in January of 2017. And that will actually have the full-size gymnasium off the back, and that hasn't started yet, but will be in process. And so we're very excited about that. I think the whole community is excited. There are a lot of youth groups that will be using that, adults, seniors. So we're very excited. If you have questions about that, you can ask our Parks and Recreation Director, Leslie Herman, about that one. The second big project is our comprehensive plan. And I don't think we have any planning commissioners in the audience tonight. Our comprehensive plan is basically a plan for the community. And the Planning Commission helps write that along with town staff, the staff from the Planning and Zoning Department. And they do this every 5 years. They update the plan. And they look at things like transportation, land use, the environment. And so they get lots of feedback from other boards and commissions, the Transportation Safety Commission and the Community Enhancement Commission. And they gather that and they put it together into a document that updates, like I said, our comprehensive plan. They have public hearings on it, and then it goes up to council. And so if you all have any feedback or interest or questions about the comprehensive plan, feel free to talk to our Director of Planning and Zoning, Patrick Mulhern, and you'll see information about that. I believe there's a work session in January on the comprehensive plan. And then thirdly, a big project we're working on is going out to bond. The town sells bonds every 2 years to fund our capital improvement projects. And this year, we're going to be going out in 2016, and the bond money mostly will go to the renovation and expansion of the community center. But we are also going to be doing some other infrastructure projects, such as stormwater management and some relining of sewer and water lines. So you'll see that in the coming months, as well as starting in March, we will be talking about the budget cycle, which will be the fiscal year 2016 to 2017. So if you have any questions about us going out to bond or about the budget, you can talk to our Director of Finance, Karen Spence. I'd also like to share with you that I host 5 times a year a Mayor's at Your Service. And it is held the second Tuesday of the month in the months of January, March, May, September, and November. And it is a forum to basically provide information to the community. And over this past year, we've really focused on 2 topics mostly, transportation and pedestrian safety. And transportation in the way of the expansion of I-66. Back in May, I invited the Virginia Department of Transportation to come and talk about the different alternatives they were offering for the expansion of I-66. And at that time, they were looking for public feedback. and they were talking about different options they were looking at. And so there was a very packed room in here in Town Hall. All the mayors at your service are held here in Town Hall. And based on that feedback, Town Council, myself, wrote a letter to VDOT expressing some of the concerns. They gathered all of that feedback. So there was feedback from a number of jurisdictions. And then in November, VDOT came back and talked about what they call the preferred alternative. And so this is the plan they're going to go out to bid on. And if you look at the line of impact, they kind of show in maps where the line of impact is. It does not look like it will be affecting Marshall Road Elementary or the parks at Eunice and Southside. And they're affecting less houses originally than they thought they were. But there still is concern, and there's still unanswered questions. The state has not decided how it's going to fund it yet, and they have not put it out to bid, and so I think it's going to be a design build. And so we don't know yet how, once the company or the contractor is selected, what's going to happen, because during construction that impact line can change. And so based on, there's lots of questions about during construction, how will that affect the neighborhoods, how will it affect noise, traffic patterns. And so I know you all are in the northeast side of town, but this affects everyone, and specifically the southwest. And so we're going to continue to monitor that, and we may invite, or we hope to invite VDOT back in 2016 to talk more about that once they have answers to some of those questions. So you'll see that at the Mayors at Your Service. The second item we have focused on is pedestrian safety. And in September, I had a few members of the Pedestrian Advisory Committee and the Bicycle Advisory Committee come, and along with the Chief of Police, who's not here tonight, but the Chief came and talked about pedestrian safety. And we really talked about all different modes of transportation in the town, because we talked about vehicles and bus service and walkers and bikers, and how all of those modes of transportation, how can we safely maneuver throughout the community and be respectful of each other, and hopefully all of us can, like I said, safely move throughout the community. And so that is, as we look into the future, traffic is obviously one of the biggest challenges for the town. We need to be able to do that, because those are our modes of transportation going forward. The town is going to have bikers and we're going to have walkers. We're building more sidewalks and putting in more bike routes, and we'll continue to have bus services and obviously vehicles on the road. And so how to be thoughtful of all of those people, and like I said, continue various modes of transportation, and for all of them to work well together. So in March at the Mayors at Your Service, it'll be focused on pedestrian safety again. So please feel free to come join us at that time. Two other plugs I'd like to make before I hand it over to the town manager. The first is for Vienna Alerts. How many of you have signed up for the Vienna Alert notification system? Okay, good. For those who have not, please, I highly suggest that you go onto the website. You can sign up for Vienna Alerts. You can just click on it, and you can either get text messages or email messages, and you can select the types of notifications you would like to receive. And I think, depending on your interests, you might pick certain things over others, but I would definitely suggest you pick emergency notifications. I think it's good if the town has to send out an emergency notification, that as many citizens as possible have access to that information. So I hope you think about that and sign up for Vienna Alerts. The second thing is I have office hours Monday through Friday in the afternoons here at Town Hall, and anyone is welcome to come by and give feedback or information. I have been mayor now, as Bob said, for a year and a half, and the first 6 to 9 months, I would say, was very hectic. We lost our mayor, as well as we had a number of new council members. We have a fairly new council. And I was really going from council member, which is a part-time job, to really mayor, which is a full-time job. As well as the mayor is a representative for the town on a number of organizations. Regional organizations like Northern Virginia Regional Commission, local organizations, Tyson's Advisory Transportation Commission, county organizations, and state organizations. And so for me, learning those organizations, the role of Vienna in those organizations, and how I best can serve the citizens of those the citizens of Vienna and in those organizations, was a learning process. And so now I have a regular schedule. I see residents all the time in the afternoon, so please feel free to come by. And I certainly understand if you cannot, because I know many people work, so you can also access me, email me at lduraco@viennava.gov, or you can call Town Hall. So feel free. Yes.
Friday morning walks.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Bob. Bob's been doing my PR for me. Yes. Friday mornings I have walks at 9:30 in the morning. That starts here at Town Hall, and we usually do about a 2.5 to 3 mile loop somewhere in town, and it's a different path each time. And actually, this past Friday, we went over to Marshall Road Elementary, who is having their run-a-thon. And so we went over and we walked around the track a couple times with a bunch of second, third, and fourth graders. And that was a lot of fun. And then we walked back to here to Town Hall. But I do that every Friday. There's a few times around the holidays that we'll take off, and then obviously weather permitting, it continues on in the winter, but depending on the weather. So feel free to join me. I'd love to have you and any of whoever, if you have friends you'd like to bring along, that would be great as well. So without further ado, I will introduce the town manager, Mercury Payton, and he can introduce the directors. So thanks.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Mercury Payton, the town manager. It's good to be with you all this evening. Before I introduce the directors, I'll just speak briefly about some principles that is important to the town. I think the Vienna way is something that is important to us, and what that means to us is multiple set of values. One is how we interact as a staff with one another, which is important, and then beyond that, how our staff interacts with citizens and customers, and then also how we interact with other jurisdictions. I think is very important to us. We take a lot of pride in that. So as you interact with us and you have questions or ideas, certainly pass those along to us, and we'll try to be as responsive to you as possible. So we have a number of directors with us tonight. First, to our left, is Director of Finance, Karen Spence. She's been here probably about 3 years or so. And Lieutenant Tom Taylor, who recently was promoted to lieutenant about maybe within the last 6-9 months or so. Okay, and then to the mayor's direct left is Leslie Herman. She's our Director of Parks and Recreation. She's been here for a couple of months, maybe 2. Feels like you've been here forever, Leslie. She comes to us from the city of Fairfax, where she was there for about 15 years, and then before that, the city of Falls Church. And then next to her is the Director of Public Works. He is Dennis Johnson. You probably all know him. He's been here for some time. He's actually my first director hire here. And then next to Dennis is Patrick Mulhern, who is the Director of Planning and Zoning. He's been here about 6 months? 8 months? Feels like forever, though, Patrick.
Yes.
And he comes to us from the town of Culpeper. Before that, spent some time with Prince William County Park Authority. And he's a graduate of Townsend, and he's like a really good swimmer. That's one of the things that he does well. And also among you here in the crowd, just blending in, is Lindy Wild. She is our new communications and marketing manager. Many of you may have interacted with Kirsten Barr a couple of years back, and so basically the same role is what Lynn fills for us. She's been with us for a long time too, like 2 weeks. and she comes to us from the city of Suwanee, Georgia, where she was there since 2000, about 15 years. And she's a Richmond Spider, University of Richmond. So I think we have a few brief presentations, and I think Dennis, I think you may have something to share with us.
Okay, just a few things. I'll try not to bore you. Leaf collection, the first pass is done, and we're charging along a little bit faster than we have in past years. We have an extra leaf truck out this year, so hopefully you're seeing better service. It'll probably be maybe 3 weeks before we come around again to your neighborhood, because we're working in the southwest. But leaf collection program is working pretty well. I was going to rattle off a bunch of projects and their status around your community. Last night, council approved a drainage study at Glendon Street near Jean Place, which is downhill from the park. Water comes across the street and floods some properties. Beulah Road Phase 2, which is Beulah and Church. It's to connect the subdivision down to, on Church Street down to Beulah. That's in final design, and we've got contract documents out to VDOT for approval. 2 traffic signals here at Maple and Center and Maple and Lawyers. You probably noticed there's all kinds of poles and lights up right now with bags on them. When it's finished, the old diagonal poles that you couldn't really see if you pulled up close because they're right over your head will go away, and it'll be completely ADA compliant with countdown, pedestrian signals, and so on. Maple Avenue East repaving from east down to Fallen. That was a grant the state gave us this year, and so we've got that, we bid it, and we're trying to get the approval to award the contract to pave that. Repaving, yeah, repaving, mill it out and then pave it back. Mill Street, the industrial section from, say, Air Hill down to the dead end, that's in final design. We've got to get approval from all the businesses, but that hopefully will be done early next year. Nelson Street drainage study, which is Nelson off of Beulah. The streets have no curb and gutter, and the water migrates from the street between the houses, and we're trying to find a solution for that. The north side property yard now has a generator, and it's, hopefully you didn't even notice because it's really quiet. We've done all sorts of testing, and so hopefully that'll guarantee that when there's an emergency, that thing will come on and we'll have power to keep providing services to citizens. We just installed a fuel management system used to replace the stubby pencil that we used to use to record our fuel use. Old Courthouse Road, that's a project that's pretty interesting. It was originally just one block, but the county joined us, and so we're now going to complete the whole sort of northeast side of the street, curb gutter and sidewalk, from the town line all the way around to Gosnell, with the county paying the major portion of that. Traffic signal optimization. Anyone who drives on Maple Avenue knows that we really, really need to retime the signals. They're synchronized, but we haven't done a timing study for years. So we've got our study back, and we're now asking for a grant to have a contractor retime all the signals. Hopefully that'll be soon. And last, Westboro Drive, probably noticed it's all finished now, the sidewalk from Maple on up the hill to Old Courthouse, and the trees were just installed. When you were talking about the NVRPA bike trail, they're also going to extend the parking lot at the train station, essentially make it twice as big and use a pervious pavement or something of the sort. That's not our project, it's theirs, and we're going to be reviewing that and encourage good water quality. Okay, any questions for me? Sorry to run through those so fast.
The parking, or is expanding the parking?
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
So for the past few years during leaf collection, the process of notifying the community, usually there have been signs put up
Yep.
maybe the week before or 5 days before, so we can all get our leaf blowers out and get everything out.
What happened to the signs?
Curious as to where they are this year.
They're not up. You didn't miss them. We didn't put them up. That's something that we changed supervisors, and I asked him when he started to take a look at all of our process and figure out ways to improve service. And one of the things he said is the 3 guys that do nothing but babysit the signs. They put them up, they change the dates if it rains, they change the dates if truck breaks down, they move them. And if you can imagine, on every block, it's lots of signs. Those guys get in a truck. So we've been relying on Jennifer Sigler, which is our general phone number, and the website is updated every single day to say where we've been and then what the supervisor projects for the next day's work. Now my problem was I did not explain that to citizens before the leaf season. I apologize for that, because that is definitely a mistake. We were so excited to do something that we've left a piece out.
I still like the signs.
You know, we're going to end up with a compromise, at least what we had a long talk, council had a long talk yesterday about it, and directed that we use like a large realtor sign that says leaf collection very soon in your neighborhood, and we post those, say, every Friday for the next week, and then we move those so we don't have to like put a date on them and that sort of thing. So we're going to try that, and hopefully it works, and feel free to give me feedback. We're trying to make it better, but we don't want to take those guys out of the truck. Yes, ma'am.
How about the Vienna alerts? Can you put that in the Vienna alerts? Hey, we're coming to Northwest in this 2-week time frame.
Actually, there's one other thing. We're going to try to put it on the TV channel, but we haven't quite figured that out. We have a two-week employee.
Liz, you don't watch it on TV.
I
You
do
watch
not.
it. It is riveting TV, so you should be watching. But no, I think that's actually a really good idea because this has just come up since the manager changed. I think having Lynn here too, having this coordinated better with Vienna alerts, with the website, and then with some signage going forward, I think that's a great idea, and the cable channel. So
You don't have to do like we're doing this block this week, but we're going to be in
This
their
section.
quadrant in this 2-week period, something like that.
Maybe we could have a leaf update section if you're interested.
Yes.
And you could get updates. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that some plans are out there. I'm just curious, the sidewalk you mentioned, church leading the Zila.
Mm-hmm.
Can you provide a little bit more color of what that is going to grow? I mean, it's trees down in that corner house.
Yeah, that really had nothing to do with us. The homeowner is completely redoing their trees.
Okay.
And we actually had 2 meetings with their arborist and our town arborist looking at the trees, and everyone hated them because they were all lopped off
Sure.
at the top. And actually, interesting, around on the Beulah side, there's a very, very large tree. Yes, I think that the town arborist told me that's probably the oldest tree in Vienna. And he was literally going to lay down on the ground if anybody got close to it. So that is as it is, but the front of it, they're going to put a wall and replanting and a big driveway. The owner told me that he's got 2 girls that are now driving age, and when they try to back out, it's pretty scary.
So is the sidewalk going to curve around and extend to Beulah, or is it just going to go to Beulah and stop?
It'll go to the corner of Beulah and Church, and it will not go up the side because of that big tree. We can't cut the roots. In fact, we had talked about trying to pound in shoring or something to save the roots, and that's really expensive.
So I understand, what's the real rationale of extending the sidewalk just to that point? I mean, I live right there, so I had a sidewalk in front of myself and Mary Ellen can see I walk my kids or ride my bike with my kids all the time. I'm just curious, what is that stretch really, it's like servicing
It was to
5
connect,
houses?
right, exactly. We
And
have,
hopefully it's going to be extended down
Yes,
to Linden.
exactly.
First
I
in
would
the
love
budget.
that. So
Exactly.
that could be,
Yes, that's what
4
we're
kids, I would
hoping
love
for.
that.
That's what we signed a petition about, is that it would be either no sidewalk or a sidewalk
Mhm.
that's free.
Mhm.
So it
Okay,
doesn't,
that's what I was trying to.
yes, well, that's what we're hoping for.
Well, and I think we wanted to, Dennis is the one who said they wanted to go from Beulah down to Church, because that's another connection point and continue on, but because of that tree, there's gonna have to be some other, that we're gonna have to figure out
Well-
something else to
Well,
connect on
that's why
that
it wasn't
side.
done during the Beulah Road reconstruction, because
Yeah.
of that tree and so many other beautiful trees that were supposed to have been left up, but they got cut down by mistake by Dennis King. So, that's why no other sidewalk has been there because of the Beulah Road reconstruction.
But right, the point is that it'll continue on, hopefully all the way down to
Air Hill.
Linden, yeah, and eventually down to Air Hill, yeah. And also, I believe there's a bus stop, isn't there, on that side of the road, or isn't there stops on that side of the road?
I mean, there's a bus stop at Glendon and Church. So my kids have a bus stop across Beulah at the sideway. Well, we choose not to go that way because of obvious reasons. So we
Okay.
cross Church,
Okay.
walk to Glendon. So,
Yeah, the citizens came to town council and talked about that sidewalk.
okay.
We weren't there yet.
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
With the efficiency improvements you had on leaf collections, do you anticipate how many cycles
Guarantee 3. Okay, I don't want to overpromise. What I really want to avoid is running into Christmas, New Year's, snowfall, all the stuff's packed down and we don't get to people. Yes, sir.
Tell just a little bit more about the redesign of Mill Street.
There's a revenue sharing project approved by council actually several years back, and it's to remove the pavement and rebuild the base and bring it all back up, and put a sidewalk on the west side, and then on the east side, which is now just a sea of asphalt for most of the distance, to put some sort of divider between private and public area that'll control the drainage, because now the water kind of goes back and forth. So, and when you get down near the end, on your sheets, it's an industrial area. We have to do something about water quality. So we're going to have to put some kind of bioretention device at the end, which is a challenge. More than you wanted to know.
On Beulah and Church Street there, when you're doing the sidewalks, it doesn't seem that the light gets tripped except by cars. So if there are pedestrians on Church Street and no car ever comes down, the light never changes for pedestrians to cross.
Yeah, I don't
Can that
think
be
that's
investigated?
Yeah, I don't think there's pedestrian activation on that light. We should, that's, I think the only one left that's on a span wire, does not have a mast arm, and that should be rebuilt. The two I talked about here, there was one at Nutley and Courthouse that was rebuilt recently, and the next one is Park and Maple. That's got diagonal poles. And then after that is the one you're talking about. Each one is $300,000 to $350,000. So we have to ask for grants.
We noticed that sitting on, the corner of Church and Beulah, there are a lot of glass and plastic and parts of cars that are banged up along there. It seems like there's accidents on that corner all the time, and most of them seem to be people running a red light coming down Beulah. I mean, it seems. I wonder if there's an anomaly at that particular corner.
Give me 1 second to look. I pulled actually the crash statistics from the area around Church Street. I wasn't able to pull up the exact locations of the crossroads. I have to have our IT guy get further into the system to pull up the exact locations. But for the crashes, I don't know if it's just off my memory. I don't know if it's any more significant than any of the other intersections as far as the rate of collisions. It seems to be fairly standard at most of the intersections where we're having issues. It's kind of the same throughout the town for the majority of the intersections along Church Street. I think we have some of that stems, I think, out of the hill. When you're coming into town from like Wolf Trap Elementary, coming down the hill towards the intersection, if anybody is at or greater than speed, it's going to be a short time. So I don't know if that's something within the signal study as far as light timing. I haven't looked at how long the yellow is for that intersection.
I have to think this is going to be considered when the TSC considers the Beulah Road crossings petition. It's so important that intersection and Fair Hill next to Fair Lake.
I think it would be one that I think in theory should probably have a slightly longer yellow, at least for Beulah, because of the hill.
How about if we investigate that? Our two departments.
When you put that crosswalk down from where it is in front of the new houses down to Beulah, are you going to have a crosswalk to go across going towards East Street? Because there's bus stops down there, public buses.
Yes.
There is going to be a crosswalk painted on that side of the street. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening. Again, I'm Patrick Mulhern, the planning director, planning and zoning director for the town. Love to meet with citizens because I always get input. It's important for me to keep a pulse on what's important to the community, and there's nothing more valuable for me than to get feedback from citizens that care enough to come out on a night like tonight. So I thank you for being here. We wear a lot of hats. Serve a lot of customers. We're liaison to the Planning Commission, to the Board of Zoning Appeals, to the Board of Architectural Review, and to the historic group in the south part of town. We also serve customers like you. If you need to build a pool or a fence or a deck, or you need to come see us. And we protect the whole neighborhood by enforcing things like setbacks and coverage of the lot and those type of things. Make sure that everybody's abiding by the rules so that everybody's protected and the quality of the community remains high. You have a great community here, and we want to maintain that. In addition to those kind of things, we also have zoning inspectors who look for zoning violations. So if there's trash or tall grass in your neighborhood, we can help enforce that. It takes a little time because there's due process. It has to be over 6 inches, and then we have to cite them, and then they have 30 days to correct it. So, and then we can go mow it. But if you have those kind of issues, I'm the guy to come see if you have those issues in your neighborhood. We also do the long-range planning, and the mayor had mentioned the comprehensive plan, and that's a kind of a vision plan for the town. And it generates an amended, what's called a land use map. And this isn't a zoning map, which basically tells you what you can do by right. This is kind of a vision for the town. Most of it is the same as the town is now. We're still promoting single-family residential throughout most of the town, preservation and expansion of the parks. The biggest change is in the Maple Avenue corridor. It's the largest focus because there's so much activity there and traffic. One of the unique things that have been done in the town is about this time last year, the council approved what's called the MAC, the Maple Avenue Corridor Ordinance, and it's an overlay, and it provides incentives, basically height incentives and density incentives, to build in a certain way that brings the buildings closer and just promotes a mixed-use development that's pedestrian-friendly and active and has street furniture and outdoor restaurants and just a much better form of development than what's pretty standard out there, the 60s model with the big parking lot and the single-story retail. So this is an example of a MAC project that recently came in. I'm sorry. And it will be going to the Board of Zoning Appeals for review this Friday. It's got the bottom story of retail and structured parking that's underneath, and then residential, high-end residential above. It's high-end, but it's still affordable, relatively affordable for Vienna. So there's a lot of folks that I've talked to that, their kids have moved out and their house is so big and they'd like to cash out and still live in Vienna, but there's not an alternative. These are the kind of alternatives that will be available, I think, very soon in the town. This is the Marco Polo site. So basically the Marco Polo building is in this area. And there's 2 other buildings here. So it's at the corner of Maple Avenue and Pleasant, and Church Street's behind. So it's that whole... Yeah, unfortunately. And I've talked to somebody about that. So
This is going to the VAR, not the BZA.
I'm sorry?
This is going to the Board of Architectural Review?
Yes. This
VAR. I thought you said BZA. So it's VAR. We'll see.
VAR, yes. These acronyms are killing me. It's ARB everywhere else I came from.
Okay.
So. Yeah, it's the Board of Architectural Review, and then it'll go to the Planning Commission for a work session and a public hearing. So you have plenty of opportunity to comment on any of these documents, the larger document, the comprehensive plan, and this is just the draft that went to the Planning Commission already, and it's a working document, but if you'd like a copy of this, come to my office, or it's online if you'd like to take a look at it. And as the mayor mentioned, it covers every gamut from transportation to environmental to parks, community facilities, and land use. So, comprehensive plan, Town of Vienna. No, it has not. It's in draft form.
Still being worked on.
Yeah, and it will be worked on probably now through March or April at least, when it gets to council. So that's in a nutshell some of the bigger things we're doing. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Yes, sir.
What's the process to rezone the location?
You have to submit a rezoning application.
Who's we? A citizen?
A citizen, a landowner, a developer. A lot of times it's a contract purchaser that actually has a contract subject to getting the rezoning. So once council approves it, then they consummate the land deal. But they would have to submit exhibits and information, not unlike this. This is a rezoning, for instance. And often there's impacts assessed, traffic impacts and those kind of things, and mitigation for those impacts. We require on larger projects a transportation impact analysis. And it might say that you need to improve this intersection because of the additional traffic you're going to generate. It's a very involved, negotiated process. And again, it's vetted through the Planning Commission and Town Council as well.
Patrick, also, you have to be the property owner to bring it forward, correct? Or a
The property owner has to sign it and be party to the agreement.
The question is not based on residential.
Oh, residential.
It's not based on that.
Okay, yeah.
It's the previous conversation I've asked. That on the Linden Park, the government owned rezoning the portion of it. I was just curious.
Yeah. So because the town, the community actually owns it, anything that the town owns, really, it's the community's land, just like the sidewalks are all the community's land. We all own that. That's all common land, the right of way. But that was brought forward by the town council to say, let's change it from Parks and Recreation to conservation. Are you talking about Northside Park?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Glendon, sorry.
I was talking about the concept I brought to you with Carrie.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yes.
I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you are interested in rezoning your property or any use of your property, feel free to come in and talk to us, and we'll be happy to walk you through it. Yes, sir.
You mentioned a vision, for the comprehensive plan and the visual you put up. One of the things that NEVCA asked the candidates in the springtime was their thoughts of a vision or whatever. Your thoughts on Mill Street of the future, which is virtually our only industrial zone. The only other one I'm aware of on the map is over by Navy Federal Credit Union.
That's the technology park.
Yeah, and we see some changes going on there. And we know it's in transition, and it was brought to my attention just this week of a request by a business to have live entertainment. I think it's the Wooden Bakery, and it's in front of the
Bay Lounge, yes.
And the B&Z, yeah. And my question is, when those things come up, are the residents that abut the commercial area, industrial area, given notice that
yes.
these hearings are going to?
Yes.
So those houses on Park Street all got letters that.
For Bay Lounge, all the houses
Yes.
behind it, yes, would have
Yes.
gotten.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we had some citizens show up and testify at the hearing
Very
that we
good.
recently had.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Was the issue of allowable sound levels
Yes.
discussed?
Yes. Matter of fact, they asked that I personally go out, and I went out with Tom. And we cranked it up inside the Bay Lounge to a point where it hurt, literally hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom stayed in there with a meter to make sure they didn't turn it down. And I went around the entire building, and we measured per. We don't have a decibel ordinance, but per Fairfax County's ordinance. So anything above 55, and all the measurements were below that. They had done a bunch of sound abatement. It wasn't like that before, and there were some complaints. There was a window that they completely enclosed, and they did a lot of sound abatement, and it was pretty effective. I was rather impressed, actually. Yes?
You mentioned about, I don't know if this is the right section of the meeting, but there's been a lot of emails I've been privy to just through the parents of Vienna Elementary as it relates to the gun shop on Mill, and kind of what's been happening in McLean with the proximity to the school. And I know there's kind of an organizing effort among a lot of parents. I don't have, one way or the other, but I'm just curious, has there been raised concerns in light of what's happened in McLean? What could happen here in light of that gun shop?
What I've heard is some level of questioning about whether you can sell within a normal commercial building, and there's nothing in the town ordinance that prohibits that at this time. Things like that are sometimes called LULUs, the locally unwanted land uses, and sometimes you put them in an industrial district. You have to accommodate them somewhere, but our ordinance currently doesn't prohibit that. We are updating our zoning ordinance, and that's an opportunity to change that law. We enforce whatever the ordinance says, and if the community as a whole wants to change the ordinance can be changed, and then we'll enforce the new ordinance. So.
Actually, I'd like to comment on that because I talked to the town attorney, and I don't want to speak for him because we've asked this question, and it has come up. Vienna Elementary, I've received a number of emails over the summer, and actually the state code, we are a Dillon Rule state, and the state code does not allow us actually to restrict the use of gun shops specifically, does not allow that. So at this point in time, we don't have that ability, whether we as a council want to or not. That has to first go through state code changes, and then it's something that local jurisdictions can choose to change at that point. So that, as far as we know in the zoning ordinance, there is not a way to do that under our state code to restrict it at this time. So given that fact, I know that in Arlington, I think there was issues with a school gun shop being opened, and at that point in time, there was a bunch of citizens who signed a petition that they will not go to that property. I guess it was like a strip mall or a certain business, and they boycotted that, and that actually influenced the property owner to not rent to that to the gun shop anymore. You obviously that's something that citizens have a right to choose to do or not to do. But irrelevant to how the council feels, unless there's the ability to change that, it doesn't exist at this point in time. So that's how state law.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. So it's enabling legislation in this case that prohibits it.
So has there been a formal petition for a store to open such as that in Vienna now?
Has there been a petition?
Yeah, I mean, this
Not
is.
that I've seen.
No.
I
Okay.
think he's asking, is the store open or not?
It is
It
open.
is open.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
This goes back to, I think when I first heard about the gun shop coming in and opening, I think it was something that this is the first forward-facing gun shop, but there's other licenses and people that can sell guns. And is that publicly available information about who sells those?
Yeah, we can get that information for you, sure.
In order to sell in town, a neighbor of mine is a gun dealer. He can't deal out of his house. He has to drive down to a commercial district. So he drives down to Mill Street, parks in the parking lot, does his gun transactions in the car at Mill Street. And it's perfectly legal, and he's got all the national paperwork needed.
So there's state and federal licenses and permits that have to be obtained. So, and they have to obtain those, and once those are established, then they are allowed to operate within the town of Vienna. That is considered a retail use within the town.
But he keeps the guns in his house then, in order to put them in his car to sell at a parking lot?
And
Does all the paperwork in the dining room, drives down to the parking lot and makes the exchange. Perfectly legal.
Sir, you had a question?
Yes, Don Bishop from Park Street. We met at the planning
Oh,
commission
yes,
meeting.
yes. Good to see
And
you.
it's about the Bay Lounge.
Sure.
The Wooden Bakery.
Mhm.
I would just say that, to my knowledge, only 2 of us on Park Street received letters about the application, though the 2 properties
That adjoin.
exactly bounded.
Yeah, that's
the other, so it wasn't the whole street.
And I'm sorry if I implied the entire street, the folks adjoining the property on Park Street. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, so, well, the meeting's tomorrow.
Yes, yes it is.
And I guess the one thing that I expressed at the meeting, but Dan Mulldale suggested I come and mention here, is that Park Street northeast and the industrial area abut. And it's not quite like live entertainment at the Jam and Java, where there's a distance, for any residential area. So with the caboose at one end, and if the lounge receives the live entertainment conditional use permit, then there may begin to be, over the next few years, that this will become more attractive as a restaurant, entertainment area, and it would be the one that's exactly behind the Park Street properties. And so I think I asked the Planning Commission and the zone and everybody here to think about whether, when I think of industrial area, I haven't thought about the restaurant and entertainment area, although I understand that's permitted. I guess it's permitted.
It is, and
So-
it goes back to your question a little bit. I'm sorry, are you finished?
No, that's okay.
They were cited as lawnmower places and like that. The council members that responded to us in the springtime mentioned those industrial type of places.
Right.
To have that so close.
Yes, and
We realized there are some serious.
I think the town is committed to continued use of that area for industrial uses and services for citizens, like they've been doing for eons. There is the zoning does allow some mixed use. It's going to be limited, quite frankly, by available parking. Because right now, both those uses, the Caboose Brewery and the Bay Lounge, are basically parking via shared parking agreements. And you can only share a parking space one time, and you have to have different hours in order for that to work. And as a practical matter, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot more down there, just because there's not going to be sufficient parking available. I can't say none, because they can make application per the ordinance and make the request, and I don't make those final decisions, but it's going to be a hard sell without sufficient parking. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about construction of new homes.
Yes.
There are 93 properties in town that are currently under construction.
Yep. It's about 100.
Okay, you still have the same fellows on your staff, Frank and one of the other gentlemen, who go out and handle complaints from neighbors?
Yes.
That was fine with 5 or 6 houses under construction. I know those fellows can't keep up with the 100 houses. What's your staff going to do if this 90, 100 house thing turnover keeps happening? Because we have neighbors who are being abused by parking of vehicles and starting before 7 o'clock and working on Sundays. And it's a problem. It's a staffing problem just because of the sheer magnitude.
Well, it's a multifaceted problem. One problem is the builders controlling the construction site adequately. And we had a builder summit back a few months ago, and a good dialogue between some of the citizens that were concerned about those kind of things and the builders. And we've had some additional dialogue going forward to put signage and hours of operation and contact information for the builders. Some of that's been done, not across the board. Not something we can require, but we're encouraging them to kind of self-police. A lot of the things that are happening are not zoning violations. They're inconsiderate behavior by subs and trucking companies and the like. Some of them are violations that only the police can enforce. So it's a combination. Most of it's not zoning violations, not things that I or my staff handle. So we often are the conduit and communicate to the necessary people, but I think we're properly staffed for what's going on now. If it gets much worse, then yeah, we probably have to look at staffing.
I know when we moved into town 17 years ago, the sound ordinance prior to 7 a.m., 7 a.m., was not enforced. And we called weekly about trash pickup being done at 4:35 a.m. And finally we got the town to say, yeah, there's an ordinance, and they've started to enforce that.
Mm-hmm.
But these neighbors next to some of these construction projects are getting it weekly. And I feel badly for them. And there doesn't seem to be a place for them to go to say, hey, how do we complain? We got a house being built here and a house being built here, and they start at 6:30 and they end at 9:30. Are they supposed to call the police every blessed time? Or is there a way to get another builder summit or and every 6 months, hey, these are issues we've had. It's your job as the developer to control yourself.
And you're absolutely right, and that's kind of what we told them at the first summit, and we're going to have another one probably every 6 months until this thing is worked out. Yes, the police do enforce the noise ordinance, and if there's a complaint about construction before we open, they are the ones that handle that. We are hoping there's some self-policing by the building community, because a lot of these builders, the good ones, they don't want their reputation sullied by some of the bad ones. So we're encouraging them to work together to help solve this problem. We encourage citizens to give us a call, and we will respond as quickly as we can and as thoroughly as we can.
Patrick?
Yes?
Is it possible for the town to do an article on how the citizens are supposed to handle this situation? You know, should they call the police if you have a list of items that you can call the police on, or contact the builder? Maybe an article in the newsletter would be...
That is an excellent idea. Matter of fact, I already wrote one, and you're going to see it in the December newsletter. Yes. That was not a plant, I swear. And exactly that. When we have the health department, the building official, the police department, my office, and it's the contact information, both phone number and email, and based upon the complaint that you might have or concern. Yes?
So just to clarify, you want us to call the police when we hear it before 7. That's the proper procedure right now.
Yeah, or call me and then I'll call the police. But the police are the ones that
He's not there.
yeah.
I got the sarcasm.
I actually start at 7, but yeah.
You call the police.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're there
The
for.
only way we're going to be able to make a request and then start citing people is to be able to witness a violation.
So as soon as.
And so if you don't call, or if you call and leave a message with planning and zoning, we get a phone call, we can have an officer there the next day. There might not be a violation before. So we need to be able to respond during the violation.
So they can't sit at the curb and run their trucks and listen to the radio.
And they're making deliveries before 7.
Right. Now we've had in the past where a delivery truck might show up. The delivery truck shows up. That's not a violation until they start to actually affect the delivery. But they're also not allowed to idle. So
That's important to know, because they're not only idling, waiting, they're also blocking the traffic. School buses.
right, and they're not allowed to block traffic either. So it's one of those things that in the midst of them making the delivery in a short-term blockage of traffic is the only way to accomplish that. That's something that we can work around, but they can't block it waiting for 7 a.m. to come around.
What about in line with that, the no trucks? Because most of our residential roads are not, equipped for this.
Right. If they're making a delivery to a residence, they're allowed to drive that truck down that road.
Okay. Well, the property I'm thinking of is on Glendon, but they still cut from Beulah straight down Broadleaf to get to Glendon, and we're a no truck street, so you know, is
Well,
that something?
they either are gonna have to come in up Beulah or come in, down the other side of London, and it's a no truck route either way. So they're kind of in a catch-22, which way they're gonna go. And they're probably gonna take the whichever the shortest route through the no truck, zone to be able to affect the delivery.
How many complaints do you get on average, for noise violations? Do you keep track of that?
It's something I can easily look up because it's every time that an incident comes in, it creates a computer generated item. So it's something that I can easily research.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
A couple of weeks, we just found out, my husband and I found out that our neighbor was going to knock their house down and have a major rebuilding of their house. And then the next week, they moved out. This must have been a long-term planning event. I was wondering if your office notifies the residences on either side when there are major building projects on a residential property?
If it's just a building project, no, you're not notified. If they subdivide the property, then you're notified, because then there's public hearings before the Planning Commission. If it's just a tear down and rebuild, that's a by right use. They have to get permits, obviously, and plans reviewed by the county and the town. But no, if you're just taking an existing house, tearing it down and building a new one, as long as you abide by all the rules and stormwater management and erosion control and get a building permit and get your plans reviewed properly, it's a by right use, so it's not communicated to the neighbors.
I just hope that they've settled where the line is and they won't be knocking down any of our trees that divide our two properties.
Well, if they go on your trespass on your trees, on your property, that's a problem. You should give us a call. Anybody else? So look for that newsletter. It'll give you all the information by complaint or concern, and those people that are on that list will be happy to assist you, answer your question, come out, whatever it is that we need to do to try to make it right. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Herman. I live in Vienna. I'm just a half a block outside town limits, and I have two children, one that goes to Marshall Road Elementary School and another one that's over at Thoreau Middle. So I'm excited to be serving the community where I live. My children also participate in Vienna Girls Softball League and also Vienna Little League. So I've been involved with the sports program here in Vienna for a number of years. I've lived in Vienna for 16 years. So my commute of 3 minutes is very nice to work. So as everyone knows, the mayor had reminded everyone that the fences are around the community center, and our offices have relocated over to Cedar Lane Shopping Center above the subway. So unfortunately, we've been checking with the management company to have Parks and Recreation sign displayed on the front of the building there, but unfortunately they do not allow that. So if you're coming to look for us, we're right across from Thoreau Middle School. Just look for the subway and take the stairs to the second level, and you'll find us pretty easily once you get up there. So we're doing our best to serve the residents of the town of Vienna and the surrounding area to keep our programs going while the community center is under construction. And the classes have been farmed out to different locations, Vienna Baptist Church, the Volunteer Fire Department. There's a few other locations where they're being housed. I know some of the locations aren't the best. We're doing the best we can to make sure that we keep these programs going. I know we had a concern with offering exercise classes on carpet, which is a little difficult on knees. So we're doing our best to try and accommodate the participants of our classes to make sure that we're able to serve you and keep the program safe while you're participating. So as the mayor mentioned, the community center is under construction and we plan on having it substantially complete in January of 2017. And by the time all the checks and balances have been done, we hope to reopen the community center in the spring. So we're very excited about that. There's going to be a large gymnasium addition that will be put onto the building. The auxiliary gymnasium that was originally there is staying, so we'll now have 2 gymnasiums. And the staff area has been relocated to where the lobby currently is, and a new lobby will be added to the corner of the building. So if you're facing the entrance, the current entrance, the lobby will shift over to your right, and there will be a nice new corridor that will take you along the side of the community center, leading you to the gymnasium, which will be located behind the community center, between the center and the VYI building that's located near the batting cages of Caffey Fields. So the W&OD trail, as you can imagine how all this is going to happen, the W&OD trail will be affected. We're going to keep the W&OD trail open at all times, which is a requirement by Nova Parks. They'll be working on relocating the trail, and then once the trail has been built, then they'll shift it over, and then folks will be using the new portion of the trail, and then they'll start doing the work along the community center there. So they're working to make sure to keep folks being able to use that pedestrian area and bicycle area. Let's see, what else is there? We will be updating the public and council at the work session meetings held here on the second Tuesdays of the month. So at 6:30 in the evening, monthly, we will have updated information about the community center. We'll also provide photographs of how it was before, where it is right now, slideshows to give you pictures of what the inside of the building's looking like. Right now, the inside of the building is completely gutted out. The ceiling's been removed. The floors have been brought down to the cement. Asbestos abatement has happened, so that's all taken care of. And they're going to be starting to work on the HVAC and also the utility lines that will be going down the south side of the building, which is where the Caffey Fields are. That will be starting soon. So things are progressing. So we're looking forward with all the development that will be happening as it moves forward. It's very exciting. We're continuing to take lots of pictures so that we can share that with you, and we'll be updating those with Lynn also on the Vienna website so that you can take a look with how the progress is going. Some of the other activities that we do here with our Parks and Recreation Department, on top of offering classes, we also provide or help support different groups with the special events that are happening throughout the town. The Vienna Business Association runs a number of events that we help support. Viva Vienna, the Halloween Parade. We're very excited to be able to provide support for those. We also work with Historic Vienna with the programs that they offer. The Church Street Stroll, which will be happening November 30th, which we all encourage everyone to participate in from 6 to 9 o'clock. So we enjoy the outreach that we have developed with the various service organizations here in the town of Vienna and are able to offer those programs in support of those. So they're very successful and bring the community out. We also have our parks manager who supervises our parks crew, and also the arborist here in town that maintain all of our athletic fields and our playgrounds and our parks, and also keep the landscape along our rights-of-way looking nice. So we have all those responsibilities as well with our department. Let's see, what was I going to say? Another program that we have, the project that we have going on is the Watersfield project. So if you've noticed, the turf is no longer green. Right now it's a sandy color. That's because they have removed all the carpet, and the crumb rubber has all been taken away, and all that is recycled. So I'm glad to say that that's not going into a landfill. They actually sell the carpet to a paintball shop. So yeah, so that's I was very happy to hear that, because there were lots of rolls of that carpet being pulled out of here. And then the crumb rubber is also going to being sold to a company for recycled purposes. So the new grass will be coming in this week, and also the crumb rubber, and they'll start working on laying that. The anticipated completion date for that is December 11. So they will be working Monday through Fridays. They have permission to work from 7 until 10 o'clock at night. And we will have the lights on. Normally we have the lights on for football anyway until 10 o'clock, so the lights aren't staying on any later than when we normally keep them on. And then I lost my train of thought. And then Yep, no. Yeah, so anyway, we'll have that under construction, and then there will be occasional Saturday hours as they see necessary, but hopefully the weather will stay nice so that they can go ahead and get that completed on time. That's pretty much the majority of the big projects that we have going underway at the moment. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
I mean, I'll just reiterate, I know I'm on the board of Vienna Little League, and we just had a board meeting last night, and there's tremendous concern about the widening of 66 and really what you can believe coming out of VDOT. Because like anything, it's kind of smoke and mirrors. They say it's not going to expand onto it, but the general sense is that it is. So I'm glad to hear that you have a son in Little League, because I manage and I'm on the board. So I'm just curious, I mean, is that kind of a right assessment to kind of be cautionary with what they're really saying? Because, I mean, it butts right on three fields at Jonas.
Right, we know that the batting cage sits on the VDOT right of way, actually. And so until they determine who is going to be the contractor, and then once they look at the plans and say really where things are going to fall, yes, you need to be cautious, because we don't know where that's going to be. And it is right abutting the fields.
Because they're taking the sound barriers down regardless, right? And they're going to replace.
They are. They're going to replace the sound barriers, and that was one of the other concerns, is making sure the sound barriers come up before they do construction for the neighbors that are going to be listening to the sounds. And depending on when are they going to be doing the construction. If they're doing it in the middle of the night, how is that going to affect the neighbors? As well as if they're going to close down a lane in 66, what is the kind of through traffic that will be going on? So there's a number of different things that have to be considered, but. I think the town is going to obviously think about alternative plans for that. I've written 3 letters, all 3 of them talk about those fields and how they're irreplaceable within the town, because there really is no other land for that to go to. So they are well aware of that. Every single time I say, we'd like to get a heads up, don't tell us later rather than, tell us sooner rather than later. We'd rather deal with the reality of it and figure out what we're going to do. So I know Vienna Little League is looking into some things, and we actually had a work session about Southside Park, and so we will continue to talk with Vienna Little League on that.
Because the new plan, they're planning on doing a bike path as well along 66.
Yes,
is
there's
that
going
kind
to be a
of
bike path along the whole length of 66, and so that is now inside the wall. So it's actually on the inside where the cars are. There'll be a separate path for bikes, which is interesting. We thought it would be on the outside of the wall, just because it would be more interesting. Yeah. But that's another point of contention, I guess, at different parts throughout the whole widening process. So, that's something that we can also consider having it inside the wall. But yes, there's things you have to be cautious, I think, about with that project. And I think that the Little League is certainly keeping up on what might be happening there and alternatives of how we could do some fields and make sure Little League continues to use those ball fields.
I believe the 66, if anyone is interested, if you're going to DC and you're going through Arlington right past the East Falls Church, you see the bridge and you have runners coming on, I believe that's what it's supposed to look like. They want to make it all the way down like that. So it's next to the highway, there's like protection, but it's like on the inside of it versus people's backyards.
Yeah.
Yes, Liz?
Leslie, I'll save Title IX stuff for off record, because that's a big discussion. But, so I sit on the board for Babe Ruth Baseball and Vienna Girls Softball. So Kathy Field and Waters Field. And we found, more so with softball, because VYI had Waters this season, there is not parking for the families of the athletes, with the community center parking lot being closed. So when the project was first proposed, the softball league and the baseball league were told that there would be no impact on the field usage. But not having parking is a huge field impact. And then Saturday mornings you have the farmers market, which it takes away even more. And then when there's events going on at the firehouse isn't open in the morning, even though the event isn't until the evening. Where are people supposed to be parking for the athletic fields when the parking lot at the community center is closed, when we were told it wouldn't be closed?
Well, what we've have been telling folks is to encourage folks to carpool when they're bringing the kids in, and then to come in through Vienna Elementary School and pull up and drop the kids off for their games. And then unfortunately have to use the neighborhood parking in order to park the vehicles, because you're correct, there isn't ample parking in that area with the, without the spaces there at the community center. That just pushes all that parking into the neighborhood.
So Kathy, before you promised us that there wouldn't be any impact, no parking is huge. So is there a way to potentially move the farmer's market while the community center is being renovated so that there is room for the kids? Or can we get access to the firehouse parking lot until maybe 4 o'clock if they have an event at 6 o'clock? Is that something that the town of Vienna is able to help out with? Because right now we're dropping the kids, the little kids, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, driving to Cunningham Park and walking back, leaving little kids unattended because there's no parking. That's not right. So you got to help us find some space. If it's the firehouse, if it's maybe moving the farmer's market for a year and a half, there's got to be something to help out so that we're not impacting so much.
Yeah, I understand your concern. The farmers market's actually run by the Optimists, is that correct? So that would be working with them. We're not in charge of that program. So it would be trying to work with them to see if they would be willing to relocate to another location. And the church is the one that actually provides the location for them to house it. So unfortunately, we're not involved with that piece. So it would be up to them to be able to take into consideration.
The town has an MOU with the church now about use of the parking lot. I think I read that. The police station has an MOU there.
Yes.
So it sort of is public parking, but it's not available when it's needed. And we're putting these little kids at risk of crossing the streets. And Merck, this may be yours. You're one of my Babe Ruth coaches, so you've seen it. Your guys are bigger. We don't worry about the big kids so much, but it's the little kids, the ankle biter footballs and the little kid softball players. What can we do? And the firehouse seems to be the best option, but if they don't let us in there because they have an event, what's the deal? I mean, we pay for the firehouse too, sort of, kind of. Can we work with them?
I will work with the fire department to see if we can get some accommodation and assistance there. With regard to the Optim's Club and the farmers market, you probably don't want to hear this, but they probably will not want to move again. I think they have been at the church there. I think this is the second or third year. So they're just now getting settled into that location and people being accustomed to coming to that site. So their operations are on Saturdays, as you know. And so the MOU that the town has with the church covers access to the parking lot as it is available when they're not having a service or something throughout the week. And so those who use Waters Field, I guess the ankle biters and others, may park there from time to time. So that is limited access. I think the other solution is what you just mentioned, maybe the fire department, and Leslie and I will work tomorrow with them to see if they can give us some accommodations to help out some. Other than that, I'm not quite sure that there are any other solutions beyond that, and please forgive us for that information.
There's not, but Kathy did promise us in the beginning
right.
that the front parking lot wouldn't be touched until later in the renovation, so that there wouldn't be any parking problems. But because of the asbestos removal abatement, they came outside and did outside work before they completed more of the inside. It makes perfect sense from a construction standpoint, but the athletes' families our town kids, it's gonna be dangerous trying to get parking for them.
Sure,
And
yeah.
if the firehouse would let us, even if the event's at 6 and we can go from 8 to 4, that's huge.
Sure, and again, please forgive us for that commitment that was made previously. One thing that we can also work with is, as well, is to see if throughout the construction, if things change as it moves along. Maybe there will be, more access given as we move along in the process of the construction project itself. Maybe we can open up some parking as we go along. I don't know the answer to that, but maybe we can work with Brad McComber and see if we can have more access as the project goes along.
We see that there's construction trucks parked in the front. Could we move the fence back, and on the weekends, we're talking about April now, can we move the fence back and at least get 10 more parking spots in the front of the computer? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can work with
Just
with Brad
something
and
to
see.
think about, because we're really struggling, and the kids are little, and there's 3 softball fields and the football, baseball diamond. It's a lot of bodies.
But this won't be picking up until March then, when they'll be picking up in March when the spring programs start again. So we're good with parking to get us through the winter, but once March hits, then we've.
The farmer's market doesn't start till May.
Oh, okay. So the church would be available.
May till October.
Okay.
So that's when the farmer's market sees, and the MOU, I believe, is for it's basically with the police. It's not for public use. Isn't the MOU allows
There's
the
public
police
use
to
in
use?
there too.
And a small portion of it, right? So, but mixed use.
Okay.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah, we can check into those items that you've requested.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes?
Is parking allowed here at Town Hall and at the police station?
It is. It's a public parking here at Town Hall. How does that? I'm not sure. The front lot is available.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
Do you have any idea when they're going to move the bike trail towards that construction?
I'm not sure. It should be happening pretty soon because I'm pretty sure that's next on the plan is to work on that area. But I don't have a specific date. If you provide me with your email address, I can send you a note and give you a better idea of when that's going to happen.
Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone else? No? Okay. Well, thank you. Be sure to come visit us over at Cedar Lane. We are there even though it doesn't appear that we are. And thank you. I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Good evening, Karen Spence with the Finance Department. As the mayor was talking, we have a very exciting opportunity. We're putting out our bond to market at this point in time. We have a little over $6.5 million, and 86% of that is going to go to fund the second part of the community center. So that'll take care of that. The rest of it is for some stormwater and water and sewer projects. So that is our big exciting part. We also have a very special designation on that this time. It is called a green bond, and so it is council initiative or objective is to have the conservation. So we're looking at green bonds. Our community center is LEED silver. So that is very exciting. We should be the first in the state to issue one of the green bonds. So that's very exciting. The budget is another part of our organization and part of our responsibilities. Everyone's probably seen this. This is we have about $30 million for operation and about $30 million for CIP. I guess that is probably pretty much it. We also, I guess we take care of the purchasing, so all the purchasing that goes through the town comes through the finance department. All of the payments and all the bills that are issued by the town come through our finance department. Are there any questions? Yes.
So are there, and maybe I missed it, but I thought they were expanding the police department as well. So are there bonds for that, or is that in the future?
It is in the future. What we look at is having a bond issuance every other year, and that is in the next issuance. What we do have is a CIP, which is our capital improvement plan, that is currently through 2034. And the next bond issuance will encompass the engineering, the A&E for the police department, and then the next one after that will encompass the actual construction. So that is definitely our next big project. We're also looking at the north side. We're putting together the Nutley yard with the north side and pulling that all together. I believe that was that phase 3 of that project? Phase 4. Phase 4 of that project. So that is our next big project after the police station.
Phase 4 involved the drive-in from the Mill Street gate to the property yard proper. Is that phase 4 you're talking about?
And I think
what you're talking about was part of the original plan was to improve the road as you go into the property yard and put in storage areas, cover storage and all that. Since that time, that was never constructed, except we did put some yard lights in. But since that time, we thought a little bit broader, and we're trying to figure out a way, since the Nutley yard needs to be redone, that thing is where we move from, is to move build a new facility sort of where the salt tank is, vaguely, and have all of the employees there together to help share equipment and provide quicker service, have a single place during emergencies and that sort of thing.
So the salt dome would be removed?
No, it'd be behind it probably. And this is vague because we don't have a design, not even a concept. It's more of a funding.
This is more about 10 years down the road. So this is quite a bit down the road. So I'm thinking every other year. So the police station, even though we're going out for fiscal year 16 for the community center, the police station is 4 more years out for that, before that construction money comes in. So it would be even further out until that construction was complete. So we're looking pretty far out into the future.
15 years ago or something, NEVCA was very, very involved with the design process, and we had lots of public hearings and people showed up like that, primarily to make the yard, which is circled by residences, as palatable as possible. And I think the town did a great job doing that, and it's been a pretty good neighbor since. And that's why I'm concerned. That's my only concern. That any change in activities, we know ahead of time.
Absolutely.
So we can comment and put our input on.
So that I will put your allay maybe perhaps some of the fear of that, or just to say that it's a good number of years down the road. And I think we also have a very good policy and roadmap that what we did with the community center as far as that involvement with the community.
And exactly, and as Karen indicates, I think that is 2026, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the year that we're talking about that. So it's a little ways out. We like to plan forward. You know, at least you know, if you plan forward, you know, you can kind of idealize, you know, what it may look like, and you know, not just attribute funds and resources on the fly. We like to plan, even though it's kind of out there.
And so, as Mercury was saying, we do that pretty far out. So it goes all the way out to 2034. Obviously, the finer details are going into the years that happen a lot sooner. So that's how that is operated. Also with the CIP, we look at ensuring that we are funding water and sewer projects. Just about every single bond issuance, there's some amount in there. We try to make sure that's a sizable amount, so we keep up with those. We also look at the streets and the storm water to make sure that we continue to keep our infrastructure in good order. Yes, sir.
So I've got some friends on Linden Street southeast,
Mm-hmm.
and in the public water in front of their house is yellow a lot, and they open up the fire hydrant and flood it out, and But, you know, a couple weeks later in their house, it's yellow again. And they were told that the town didn't have enough money to do that type of a project these days. Is that something that is an issue?
I think that I'm going to also ask Dennis to come up here. He takes care of the water and sewer department.
Yeah, we're well aware of that. In fact, we installed a new hydrant to help do the flushing, and we're hoping that that will take care of it, and it has not.
It has.
It's true that we don't have the money in the plan that we just finished, because we just finished this summer's water main replacement, cleaning and lining, and sewer main cleaning and lining. But it's number one on the list for the next round. So we've tried everything we can think of. We're going to have to replace the water main along Glendon there. 300 block, yeah.
Something else that I should probably mention, we're talking about the water and sewer. We did have the water and sewer rate study that was implemented in July of 14. We are looking at having the tap fees and that sort of a thing, availability fees, to go into the fund as far as for replacement of infrastructure, so we can have not only pay as you go, but the bond issuance, so we can have a little bit more money going into the infrastructure. Any other questions?
So, talking about infrastructure and water mains, I mean, I know every winter we have breaks. How much of the budget is proactive to substantiate that infrastructure versus reactive?
The operational is definitely the reactive side of it, and the CIP would be the proactive side of it. So we are putting money into it every single bond issuance for the proactive side of it, for the relining, and for the water line replacement. We're also putting into place a financial software system, but it's not just financial, it's more of an enterprise system. And what that is doing is putting in a work order system. So we're putting the GIS into interfacing it into the system, so we'll be able to see it from the water break side of it as well as the preventive side of it. So I think that this will be able to help us be able to see it visually on the GIS system on the maps, and hopefully help us a little bit more.
So in case of the Glendon water line replacement, that doesn't happen this year, it happens in the next bond issuance?
It depends upon the schedule. Is that the next one?
The money would be spring?
Actually, the one that we're doing right now, we'll be getting our money at the end of December. So obviously that's going to depend upon when we have mobilization and when we have contracts and when those are awarded.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Hi. Could you say something about the impact of all the reconstruction of the housing stock of Vienna and on our millage rates and taxes and the town revenue?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. We certainly have something that's going on here that's a little bit different from many parts of the United States with the redevelopment of the individual homes. The other thing that is really impactful is just the site, because we go down the street and we see a big, large home, and so that is certainly drawing our eye. At the 100 or so a year that we're looking at, it's not, if you take that and divide it by our 5,500 parcels, that is not as big of a number as it seems like when you're looking down the street and you see those larger homes. So it is impacting us. We are certainly seeing a small amount as far as revenue is concerned. We have about 3.4% growth just naturally, the existing properties. But if we add in and look at how much growth do we have overall to the town, it's about 5%. So that kind of gives you the indicator of how much is coming in from those new homes. But that's an excellent question. I did, as a part of the bond issuance, we had to put together credit reports and different things like that, or credit ratings reports. And we have about 11% of our homes are $1 million plus. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much of the town.
And Fairfax County does the valuation work as
They do. Yes, we receive all of the assessments from Fairfax County. But they do it based upon neighborhood. And then they also obviously look at all the amenities that an individual property might have, porches and garages are attached, or the square footage. Sure. Any other questions? Okay.
Is that it? I want to thank you so much. One other thing we always do at these meetings is have door prizes.
So if anybody did not sign the little sheet of paper, we have some breads from Great Harvest. And one thing I forgot in the preliminaries was to pass the minutes from May. All the members received either email or snail mail the minutes. And we do have a quorum, so I'm going to put it to you. If there are any questions in the minutes that you would like to see David Gilladue, our secretary, change, we can do that. David has one change. Here I misspelled his name. I think it was not him. So we will make that change. And hearing no other changes, is there a motion to second it? All in favor? Thank you. Great. Now, door prizes. I'm sorry? Okay. Sounds good.
Sure, I'll pick it.
Since we got started, Council Member Carrie Sinecki has joined us, so I want to recognize Carrie. I think she was at the meeting for the Public Arts Commission, right next door. Thanks for coming to the meeting. Name?
Alan Page.
All right.
The bread's outside.
Oh.
Great Harvest Bread donates bread and cakes. They've been doing it for, I don't know, 15 years at least. Every meeting we have, they graciously donate to our door prizes. So please support them.
Alan, don't pick one up.
And the mayor too, yeah.
No, I think it's apple scrapple. I don't know the other.
You don't like apple scrapple.
Maureen Allen is a big winner.
He calls bingo too.
Come on now.
I have Brady Daly.
Thank you.
And Pat Terwilliger?
All right. Better get that apple scrapple.
Lastly, again, thanks so much for the staff and for the mayor for coming out tonight. The board appreciates you coming. One of the things we will do is take stock of the past year, what we've heard tonight, and when we have our next quarterly meeting soon, probably after Thanksgiving, we'll be thinking of the future going forward with the comments that we heard tonight. Excellent questions. Thank you.
Can I have everybody's attention for like 2 minutes? We're first time